Known as Bosasa has announced that it will go into voluntary liquidation as a result of banks closing their accounts. Now, the company says that it's received a formal notification from its banks seeking to distance itself from the group, citing reputational risks. The banks will cut ties with the company by the end of the month. African Global Operations says that the extensive reputational damage from the negative media reports over the past few months have led to the financial institutions cutting ties with the company. The company has been in the spotlight following testimony at the state capture inquiry. Some of its members implicating it in serious impropriety. The company says that it's solvent and that decisions made by the financial institutions are not based on the group's liquidity status, financial stability or operational performance. The group says that without banking accounts it will not be able to trade. The company says that more than 4,500 employees stand to lose their jobs. FNB and ABSA have declined to comment on the matter, citing client confidentiality. Well, to tell us a little bit more about liquidations in general, I'm now joined by attorney Sibusiso Khumalo. Thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so help us understand this thing of a liquidation. I know sequestrations usually happen when an individual can't pay his debts and creditors come after him, and then the person gets declared bankrupt, I guess, and then gets sequestrated. So tell us what a liquidation is.
So liquidation, if we were to get a brief description or definition of liquidation, liquidation is about an act by agreement or by litigation to transfer or to convert assets into cash for the purpose of paying a debt or damages. So in the context of insolvency law, that would be a liquidation for you. But there are three types of methods of going about the process. So you've got voluntary, as you pointed out, and you've got one that is not voluntary, so it's almost like a forced liquidation.
The creditors saying, look, we want our money, you're not paying us. Yeah. So we're going to liquidate your assets to get our cash.
That could be creditors saying that, and that will fall under probably fall under a voluntary liquidation. So under voluntary liquidation, you could have creditors saying that,
I see.
And then you could also have the members saying that, and you have to satisfy certain requirements of liquidation, namely whether can the company that wants to liquidate, can it be said that its assets are more or are less, its assets are way less than its liability, so it cannot pay its debts?
Can a company that is financially viable, it's liquid, its assets are greater than its liabilities, and it's a going concern, can they wake up one morning and say, look, we'd like to liquidate our company?
Yeah, based on the New Companies Act, they can. Unfortunately, they can. And one of the reasons that the courts have probably accepted over the in this new dispensation of the New Companies Act is the vision of the company realizable? Is it commercially solvent? So if it's found that it's not commercially solvent or it's commercially insolvent, then it can.
I suppose that who then makes the decision? Is it the courts? Who is it? Who decides whether a liquidation can go ahead or not?
At the end of the day, the court will have the final say as to can you be liquidated? Will it be in the interest of the creditors? And depending on the method that you have employed, it could be a false liquidation where somebody makes an application and a creditor, it could be the voluntary one that we're talking about, or it could be just by the court. So there are three ways of doing it, and the one that is in concert right now, or the one that is the subject matter, it's the voluntary one. So it can either be by creditors or by members. But again, they'll have to have a certain percentage in terms of passing a resolution to do that.
Okay, so let's assume that this company is viable and has got no financial distress.
Yeah.
Can workers say, hang on, we're going to be prejudiced here. Yes, you may satisfy all the other requirements, but this isn't a Section 189 where a company is in distress and therefore you can apply for that kind of leave. What happens to the workers? Can they say, hang on, no, you can't liquidate, we'll lose our jobs?
I mean, obviously, it's in the best interest of the workers to do that. But once a voluntary liquidation takes place and it's underway, there's nothing much really they can do. They only become preferent creditors at the end of the day in terms of when they have to, in terms of pensions, in terms of their salary that they've worked for. But the money that they're going to get is not the same money that they would get. That they would get in at the end of the money that they would get, say, in a retirement situation.
So, I mean, if somebody wants to misuse this, I could start company B. I want to get rid of all my workers in company A. I do a voluntary liquidation in company A, use the cash that I get after the liquidation and transfer it to company B. I've solved my labor problem. I've solved all the drama in company A. It might have reputational problems, etc., etc. And I just carry on with company B. That can't be right.
It can't be right. That it comes at the end of the day to the legal truth and the factual truth. The legal truth is that you can get away with that, but obviously you have to satisfy some certain requirements. If you cannot satisfy those requirements of a voluntary liquidation, it won't fly. But if you can, then you would have it will fly. But yes, the legal truth is it can happen. The factual truth is that it's a sad story.
So by far and away, I guess the types of liquidations that we see are usually because a company is in financial distress.
Not usually. Normally it's because it cannot pay its creditors,
right.
It's in debt, or it's unable to pay its debt in timelessly within accepted business practices.
Is there anybody that can, apart from creditors, authorities maybe step in and say, no, you can't, or they oppose a liquidation application?
Yeah, I mean, it's any application that is before court, depending on the methods that the liquidation is taking shape. You will have a chance to object. If it's an application in court, you can always join and oppose that application. I mean, opposing an application is one thing. Now, the question is, do you have grounds to oppose it? Right. Is it going to be a successful opposition? If it is, then you'll have a chance. But if it's a voluntary liquidation, you might just have challenges as an employee, that is. But as a majority creditor or majority members, you might have a chance in saying, no, let it not happen. Right. Because of A, B, C, D, and in terms of a constitution of the company, in these circumstances, we are not allowed to. If for example, the company says there are certain situations or there are certain circumstances in which we can liquidate, and the facts at hand are not meeting those requirements, then you cannot liquidate. But if it allows you, then you can.
Right. Okay, just to explain it to our viewers in simple terms. So what we're saying is, a liquidation basically is you've got a company, it's in business, and at one point it decides, look, I don't want to be in business anymore. So what I'm going to do is get rid of all of my assets, pay off my liabilities, whatever cash is left, I keep, and then the company gets deregistered or something.
If it's in the best interest of the creditors, it can do that. And if it satisfies the reason of liquidation being a commercial liquidity or commercial solvency, or it's not within the vision of the company to carry on business, then
and
it
getting
can.
your bank accounts taken away can kick in something like that.
Now say that again, because say that question again. It's a very tricky one, and I don't want. I don't want to. Say that again.
So, for example, a company gets its bank accounts taken away.
Yeah.
It can't trade.
Yeah, that could be a reason.
That would be a good reason to ask for a voluntary liquidation.
That could be a good reason, because then it will satisfy the vision of making business. Why we in this business? To make profit, and we are unable to realize our vision because
We've got no
there's no bank account.
All right, so we're going to have to leave it there, but thanks very much indeed for coming through and helping us navigate this world of liquidations. Thanks so much indeed.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
All right, stay with us. You're still watching SA Today. Coming up, more as we tell your story on the program.